Hello and welcome back to Tinker Talks Guns. Recently we discussed the Seecamp LWS32, the most pocketable .32 auto ever made. Quite small, quite light, and therein lies the problem. It's snappy as hell. In fact, for someone with my size hands, the trigger guard is fairly abusive when firing. And I thought, what can we do about that? Several things, as it turns out, and I address some other issues as well. So, let's go to the tabletop and have a look. Seecamp is tiny and lightweight, but it fires 32 ACP, and that makes it a pain to fire for many of us, especially those with large hands. So I thought, let's do something about that. Now, the first thing I did was I cut 20 line per inch serrations on the grip, because what happens is when you fire, the guard would smash up into your trigger guard because you just can only hold the gun so well. This anchors your hand enough better without messing things up for in-pocket use. I thought about doing it on the back strap, and I thought, that can snag on clothes and be a little bit of a pain, so we'll see if it's necessary. The next thing I did was round and thoroughly polish all of the edges on the trigger guard so there were no longer sharp edges being hammered into my poor little trigger finger. I also beveled and polished all the corners, and to address the recoil, I ported the barrel. And I did this with a file and a Fordham tool. And it works really well. It diverts a significant amount of gas upwards and takes the sting out of the muzzle flip. And this is all to the good. And of course, being me, I couldn't just stop there and leave well enough alone. I also cut 40 line per inch serrations across the back of the slide because polished stainless steel is highly reflective. And I don't need that in what is essentially the rear side of the gun, which is the back of the frame. I also cut 20 line per inch or 40 line per inch serrations, down the entire length of the gun before I ported it. Also to reduce the sometimes obnoxious glare off the top of the slide, which it does admirably. And I found that my trigger finger, going from the safe position, would have to work around the trigger guard, especially right-handed, which I'm right-handed. So I relieved the trigger guard in the fashion that I do on my double-action revolvers, so that moving to the trigger is just that much more effective and easy. And as a result, it works. Now, unfortunately, I did discover that the magazine with the extended floor plate does not work. I also discovered that the gun does not like Hornady ballistic tipped ammunition, as you saw in the video. But a few simple modifications didn't take a hugely great amount of time and did not, frankly, require any sophisticated knowledge or tools. Although if I weren't a metal worker by trade, I might be a lot more hesitant to attack that with a round file. But anyway, the gun is now terrifically more manageable and does not beat me up. It's still snappy as hell. You're just not going to get around that. But it's no longer painful to fire. A lot of people would argue that a gun of this type, an absolute last-ditch get-off-me gun, that it doesn't matter if it's painful to shoot. And they have a point if you don't intend to practice. Now, personally, if I have a gun designed for self-defense that I intend to employ in that fashion, I want to practice with it. And if it's painful, I'm not going to as much as I should. A few simple modifications, and now it is personalized and more unique, but it also no longer is unpleasant to shoot. Finding appropriate ammo and paying for it can be rather unpleasant. Which brings me to this. I'm not sponsored. God knows I'm not monetized by YouTube. So all of this is out of pocket, except for what I get from my supporters on Patreon. So if you'd like to help the channel out, please consider clicking the link below and supporting me on Patreon. Anyway, stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.